everybody. How are you? My apologies for being late, and the reason for that is that we had a problem with the internet again this morning, and Alison's now leaving the office, like Alvis leaving the office. Hey, welcome to Saturday Morning Live. Thank you for joining. As you can see, I'm wrapped up this morning. Gareth, are you out and about? Are you working today? What are you doing? Thanks for joining this morning. Really appreciate it. We got Steve there, sick of lives. I thought you were on holiday, Steve. I thought you were on holiday. Look, thanks for joining. 7 live viewers, and we've had 1 like. Let's see if we can get on that and give it a like. I'm not quite sure how you like it. I'm not really sure how you like these channels. Benedict Simmons, good morning, Bud. How are you? Good morning, Bud. I nearly said 2 things there. Monday, Steve's going away on Monday. Let me see if I can get the channel up and while we're talking now this morning. Welcome to Saturday Morning Live. I told you I will never ever miss this live feed. It is so beneficial. Just to let you know, John Ward won't be joining us this morning simply because John is having we've got a caller coming in. I think that was Nick from Banbury, but we're not ready at the moment. But if he calls back, I'll accept him. Let me see if I can get the live feed up this morning. I do apologise. This morning it is about the freeze-thaw effect. Richard Dow's joined us. Paul Goodchild, good to see you guys. Let me see if I can get the live stream up because I can actually see better. I've got glasses here, but as usual, if you're doing the live stream, I'm not very good with my eyes at the moment. Well, for some time, and that's where I got to use these glasses. Where did you get your glasses? Hey, all our eyes start suffering at some point. We have got an internet problem this morning by the looks of it, because we haven't got a blue light on our internet, so I don't know what's gone on there. What a shame, what a shame. Well, there you are. Welcome to Saturday Morning Live. I can't get the live stream up at the moment for some reason. Don't know why. We'll let that tick over. Anyway, here we go. Without any further ado, Richard Dow says, Asda do very cheap, good glasses. That's what it's about, building a community, and that's what we've done on this channel. Gareth says, in Macclesfield today, dry stone walling, it's a bit chilly. Gareth, a picture, I bet it's absolutely beautiful over there in Macclesfield. I remember going along Snake Pass many years ago, up to Buxton in Derbyshire. Just see if I can get the people there. Nicholas McCartney, if you want to call back now, Nick, we're ready for you this morning. As usual, it's always a hectic. Let me just read what Steve says. I'll have to read off the screen off the phone at the moment, but I also put a bit of antifreeze in. Hi, buddy. There we are. Look, so there we are. We're going to be talking about the weather this morning. Alison's joined us. The freeze-thaw effect is a really tough time, and the answer is when people phone me up and message me and they ask me the question, can we lay concrete or mortar? Snake Pass, says Richard Dow. Yeah, I've been up there a few times. Can we lay mortar or concrete in the freezing cold? Got to be really careful what I say here, and speaking to John Ward this morning, in essence, the answer is no, okay? It's got to be no, and the reason we say no is because we don't want to send the wrong message out there, okay? We don't want to send the wrong message out there. The thing is, when you get that freeze-thaw effect, during the process of the hydration of your mortars or concrete, certain voids will be formed. There'll be air voids, there'll be capillary voids, and there'll be gel voids. I have written some of these things down just to remind me. So there's air voids, capillary voids, and gel voids, and they're all in different sizes. Voids within voids. And what happens is it's those voids that, like the air voids, for example, they will have moisture in there, and it's those air voids that will start freezing. Just going to read what Benedict says there. He says, I did an experiment yesterday, mixed up some muck and left it outside overnight just to see what would happen. Going to look at it Monday. Mario Ritchie joining. Morning, Mario. Mario, are you going? Central heating on, fire on, cricket on. This will be fantastic. That's the way to do it. You see the cricket the other day, they did put a few on Pakistan. It's incredible. We are going to read everyone's comments, but I need to take my glasses off so I can start talking. So in essence, the answer is no. You should be laying when it's freezing. You want to and rising, as they say. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. 3 and rising. Keep the mix dry. There we go. There's your answer. There is an answer there. Talking to John Ward, Steve, this morning, and Benedict and Gareth there. Talking to John Ward over the last couple of days, and he's a clever guy, knows his stuff, like all of us. Okay, it's not rocket science to actually understand how this works. Basically, what's going to happen if you've got wet water, anything wet, water freezes. You see, that's the problem. Water freezes, it crystallizes, and then it starts to expand. Okay, and then when we look at the freeze-thaw effect. For example, if your mortar or your concrete or any of those works that you've done are left in at some point, okay, and you don't notice it because the frost has got to it, okay, what will happen, you'll have the freeze-thaw effect and it will start breaking down on a regular basis. It will start eating away. Phil Shaw, good morning, mate. Good to see you on there. Mario says, good morning. Mario Ritchie, good morning, Sol. So the freeze-thaw effect. I want to read what people say because it's so important. Quick question. Hello, Johnny boy. I am going out at Christmas shopping. I was just thinking about the freeze thing that you are talking about right now. Everything you are saying is true. How would Russia do it? Well, this is the thing. This is the point. This is the point about all of it. You've asked a question there. Tubaway Army. I don't know your name, mate, but you need to tell me. I forgot. I have seen you before. Tubaway Army. This is your YouTube name. Tubaway Army. I want to know what your real name is because I always start remembering people's names now, and by saying it, this is how we do. We remember things like Hulk is Gareth, Sick Eliza is Steve, Mario Ritzy is Mario, John Ward, of course. So how would the Russians do it? I'm Ray in Leeds. Ray, thank you very much. I will remember that now, almost like remembering a farmer remembering the sheep's name. Not that you're all sheep, okay? So, the question was then what Ray from Leeds actually said. Ray from Leeds, he actually said, how would the Russians do it? Well, it's like, when I look back to when we were concreting, we were doing years ago, probably 30 odd years ago, we were doing 2 pours a day. In some cases, each pour on a foundation was 90 cubic meters of concrete. Did we pour in the winter? Well, we did, okay, we did. And what we found is that once we got through the foundation out, the ground was quite warm down below. It wasn't freezing all the way down. And then more than often with a foundation, what we would find is that if, for example, we allowed from the damp course down to the concrete, top of the concrete, finished level of concrete, you probably can have as much as 600 mil, 2 feet, okay, in makeup, in block work to build the overside. And because of that, the concrete was below ground level, okay? And very often, some of the old guys years ago, they would never worry so much if it froze on the top of that concrete because they could scrape it off because they knew that down below that it was good. Is it good practice? No, it's not. But more than often, sometimes what we've done, we would cover it over with a sheet. Now, when we're talking about this, we must remind you that it's still not a good thing to lay concrete and mortar, okay, in freezing conditions. It's just not a good thing anyway, okay? And it's about needs must. Do you really need to do it? Well, the answer is in some cases, no, it's not, okay? There are other jobs that you could possibly do as a contractor. Has anyone got snow this morning? Lovely blue sky here in Bedford. There's snow on the way. That's the other thing as well. So we've got to go back to this. We've got to keep reminding concrete or mortars in the freezing cold. Well, if we don't need to, we should be doing it because it is going to have some effect. It's a big no-no, okay? Unless you can quarantine your area, quarantine your products, quarantine the area that you're in, literally covering the whole area. And that's what you find is that in places like Russia and Canada, they do cover areas up. You will see that they adapt in areas like Russia and Canada because they will build in a different way. They will build with wood, okay? But they will make sure that the wood, and that's the thing, what we used to do years ago, okay? and you've got to remember, I don't know whether they're doing it now, is that when the blocks of materials would arrive, or even sand, it was always covered up to protect it from the elements. And certainly facing bricks and block work was normally put in a compound out the way, but if it wasn't put in a compound, it was put near a roadside for easy access. But one of the problems that would occur was when traffic would go by with dumpers and diggers, splashing the side, discoloring the face of the bricks and getting mud in it. You need to quarantine everything you do. It was said this week that somebody was going to thaw out their materials, their type 1, with some hot water, but I'm afraid that's not going to work at all. It's just not going to work because it's going to freeze again. You need to reduce the water content in it. So we can look at all these different ways to actually protect what we're actually doing, okay? And we can do it, and we can do it successfully, but the logistics of doing it outweigh the actual time, certainly in domestic situations. What I would say, I don't know what your projects are or what you're on, how you're going about it, okay? But more than often, when the sand is in the builders merchants, for example, we got a caller come in, we got to take it. We can go back to this. Hello?
Hi, John, it's Nick.
Good morning, Nick. How are you?
Yeah, I'm alright.
I'm just going to introduce you. This is Nick from Banbury. He's an absolute excellent garden designer, and Nick joins us on the live stream on a regular basis. Nick, my apologies this morning when I had to sort of decline your call because I was running a little bit late, and I'm just getting going now this morning. Nick, can you just tell our viewers who you are and where you're from?
So my name's Nick McCartney. I trade under Alexander, and I'm based in Banbury in Oxfordshire.
Right, fantastic. I think a lot of people that join these live streams on a regular basis has got to know you, Nick, and they've actually visited their site. They've messaged me and they say what wonderful work that you've done. Look, I just want to say good morning to Ian, has joined us this morning. We've got 35 live viewers this morning. So Nick, is the stage and it's here ready for you. How are you feeling this week?
I'm feeling okay, actually. Dialysis has been okay this week, and patient transport is playing ball.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
Well, my apologies for not being in contact with you recently. I've had a hectic time with a vehicle at the moment, one of my vans, and we've got it going. But it cost me yesterday. It cost me £1,500 to get it back on the road.
Flipping out.
Yeah, it was all with the DPD. It's not easy running a business, is it, Nick? Certainly this time of the year.
No, it's not. It's a real slog at this time of the year because you've got to deal with the weather, and I appreciate what the fellow landscapers who are doing paving and concreting in this weather are faced with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, Nick, look, you're a landscape, great knowledge of how to build and to design and everything, but contractors are really, they've got a hard deal at the moment, haven't they?
They have indeed, yeah, and it's not just concreting; it's plants as well. That you can't stand on frozen ground or when you're doing planting because it damages the soil structure.
Yeah, let's get things now just to get our viewers up to date with this. If you just joined the Saturday Morning Live podcast, this is a community of landscapers, contractors and consumers in some case, and suppliers. And this morning we got Nick McCartney calling from Banbury in Oxford. He's well experienced and without a doubt probably one of the most nicest guys that I've ever met in my life. He's a great guy, and he's been through hell this last couple of years, and he's on dialysis at the moment. So I've put you in the picture about Nick. But Nick, let's just go back. We are going to go back to concrete and mortar at some point, but the same sort of things can apply in the industry to the horticulture side, isn't it? Working can you just?
Yeah, it does.
I want you to run with this and tell us a little bit, Nick, but I just want to help our viewers so they start to understand. So when we look at the industry as hard landscapes, soft landscapes and design, etc., the thing that the industry is met with on the horticulture side of things is that there are difficult things, but there are good things, because this is when plants go into their dormant period, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah, we're going into dormancy now. So things like fruit trees, all trees, because they've got their leaves. So they're going into their dormancy period where they go to sleep for the winter and then wake up again in the spring and produce new leaves.
Right, okay. And is it the case that the say like the canopy in a tree, like a fruit tree, all the energy goes down into the roots, does it, Nick? Can you explain that a little bit about that?
So all trees, if they're planted in a garden, trees talk to each other through their roots, and that's pretty magical when you come to think about it.
Oh, Nick, I seen the other day on Gardener's Wood, I think it was, where they was explaining about how trees talk to each other through their root system, how they communicate, and I forget the name they actually call it, but some trees will tell other trees if they're having a problem, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, if they need feed, or if they need water, or whatever, the things like that. It's quite technical term. I forget it myself at the moment, but I'll put it on the group a bit later.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. Nick, just to let you know, right, that this morning, I got goose pimples this morning now because we got 40 live viewers and they're listening to it. I've got to remind people, Nick, I'm not being rude with you now, sir, but I just got to remind people, as you join this live stream this morning, we've got Nicholas McCartney, who's a garden designer there down. We've basically touched briefly on concrete and mortars, and we're going to get back to that. But what Nick was just talking about there, Nick was talking about how trees communicate. Nick, what can we do in the garden for this month in these cold conditions? What can we do?
Very limited, really. You don't want to walk on frozen or frosted lawns because that will damage them even more.
Yeah.
So keep off frozen frosted lawns. And just keep away patios snow-free, frost-free.
Yeah, that's the thing, Nick, as well. That as when we look at the landscape industry, a lot of these guys do just hard landscapes. Some do a little bit of both, soft landscapes and hard landscapes. But there are things that we can do to get on and earn a living, because that's, in essence, that's our concern, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, bulb planting now is really big because a lot of nurseries and garden centres and bulb suppliers are reducing their prices. So you could certainly plant bulbs up in pots and in gardens, provided it's frost-free.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's what I was talking about, Nick. And this is like where we've got something akin with the concrete, the mortars. Is that if we quarantine things and protect things, we can actually carry on working. So let's say if I had a small border, for example, and I want to put some bulbs for springtime, because obviously you plant in this time of the year for spring, don't you? And so could we put a sheet over an area? If we were getting ready to do a bit of planting in a certain area, could we put a sheet over a piece of ground or over the top to protect it in readiness for planting?
Yes, you could, yeah. So something like a textile membrane, that would be ideal.
Yeah, okay. And that's fine then, isn't it? And so long as we keep a sheet over, so if the ground, it's surprising how it makes a big difference. We got Gareth there from Manchester. He's in Matlock building a dry stone wall today. He says to me, is it a good time to move trees in these low temperatures?
Not in these low temperatures, no. I would avoid moving trees in this frost, digging down to dig them up. You want to protect the roots as much as possible, but when temperatures rise a bit more, then you could do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a couple of weeks ago when it was quite mild, I moved a tree, and that would have been okay, wouldn't it, Nick? And hopefully it's because it was moved and I fed it and put lots of soil around it. It's going to be insulated, I hope.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Mark Needham says, he says, morning all. I'm a gardener myself, trying to get my contracts wrapped up for the winter. The winter has been so disruptive.
Yeah, it's often disruptive to a lot of gardeners. That's very true.
matter. We're not talking about plants and concrete and everything at the moment. How sort of detrimental can it be on a business when we carry out work that has a really adverse effect on our? It's not worth it sometimes, is it?
Sorry, can you repeat that, John?
I was saying it's not worth taking a risk, because business is about risk and reward. And if you're going to cause damage to the work that you're doing, because it's going to be costly, isn't it? You know, it's going to be costly.
Is, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it will hit you hard if you make work in this weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm going to carry on with this theme at the moment. Just to remind you, we've got Nick McCarthy. Nick, we've always got to do this because there's people. When I look at the live stream after and look at the analytics and the stats, there's a lot of people that come and go. They're doing all sorts of things, but we've got 30 live viewers, Nick. It's still there at the moment, which is good. It doesn't matter whether there's 2 or 3, but we're going to help people. We've got Nick McCartney, our garden designer. Nick, can you give your web address so that we can actually get? I can't share it this morning for some reason because my internet's down. I'm on 5G at the moment, but can you give your web address if anybody has any questions about garden builds or project management? Where can they find you?
www.banbury, BANBURY, gardeners, GARDENERS.co.uk.
Right, and Nick, after the live stream, do you think you can actually share this onto in the comments below on this video, so if anybody needs any advice about design or landscaping, because we got to think ahead, haven't we, in the new year? You know, people.
Yeah.
Nick.
Yeah, I'll put it on the landscaping survival Facebook page.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Nick, people should even though there's a lot of spin on the economy at the moment. A lot of contractors are still busy, aren't they?
They are, yeah. I know a few contractors round here that are booked up till June, July. Okay.
What would your advice be to a consumer, Nick, when they're choosing a contractor? What would you say? We spoke about this before so many times, but we've got to keep repeating this. What advice would you give to a consumer when choosing a contractor, whether it's a garden designer, a plants person, soft landscaping, or even hard landscapes? What advice would you give?
Research.
Yeah. Nick, I was listening. You know the guy, Warren Buffett, don't you? The big entrepreneur in America that's worth absolutely billions. He said the other day, what will get you through these difficult times is being good at what you do, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And always communicate to your team and to your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, totally, 100%. We've just got to wish John Ward, who's a regular viewer of the show, Nick, it's his birthday today, and he's taking the day out on the prayer. So if anybody wants to wish John an happy birthday. But Nick, we've got a gardening question coming in now, and I've got to put my glasses off. Said that correctly. He says, am I right in thinking that you or other plants back during the winter? So you should wait until February, ? Isn't the best for the wildlife too? So a couple of questions there. Do you want me to repeat that, Nick? A couple of questions. Shouldn't you cut grass or plants?
You shouldn't cut grass in lawns or grasses in borders.
I think what he's saying back during the winter, you should late February. Grasses. He's talking about grasses as like the ornamental plant, those architectural plants.
Yeah, so I would leave them until the spring, and then thaw them so they produce new growth from the base. So when would you do that? Now? No, do it in the spring. In
spring, yeah, absolutely. So if we're talking about grasses like Festuca glauca or Planus capus, is Planus capus nigrescens a grass, Nick?
All Festucas, Descamphidias, Miscanthus, creatures that want to overwinter in them so they can get through the winter.
Yeah, absolutely. So Miscanthus sinensis, there's one called silver feather, isn't there?
There is, yeah.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. So we're looking about cutting those right back in spring. And when we say spring, are we, so what week, like what time exactly, if we can narrow that down a little bit, Nick? 38 live viewers, Nick.
I would say about middle of April.
Middle of April. So, in answer to your question, Ian, cut your grasses. Nick's saying cut them back, just in case you can't even cut them back in probably the second week in April, early spring. And how far are we cutting them back, Nick, to the ground? How far?
Well, with some certain grasses, you can cut them to the floor.
Yeah.
Cut them to the ground, and then other grasses, you just need to pull out all the brown dead foliage.
Yeah.
So that the new growth can come through.
It seems an odd thing to do that spring is arriving, but it's surprising how fast the growth materializes, Nick, with these plants.
Yeah, well, that's grass for you.
Nick, just to let you know, I'm in the office this morning, which you will attend one day when you come to visit me, and we will feed you and water you. And I've just literally looked behind me because the sun's coming out. The sun is coming out. 38 live viewers. Welcome to Saturday Morning Live with Johnny Boy. I've got Nicholas McCartney, who's our regular caller on it, our garden designer. Later on, he's going to be putting in the comments in this video his web address, so you can actually speak to Nick if you want to send him a message. It will be on there. Nick, you got 38 live viewers. I'm just going to tell our viewers now, don't forget to give it a like. We've got 18 likes at the moment. Just going to read some of the questions. Nick, can you still bear with me a moment? We've got John Ward there, is at Silverstone. It's his birthday today. Ray's off. He's heading out shopping this morning, and what you find, Nick, with this channel is that people will have a look at the channel like John Ward is when he's out and about, because that's how he values what we are actually doing. Happy birthday, says Gareth. There we are. Morning, John. Rob Fry's joined us. Yvonne Gordon, who's a consumer in Cardiff. Yvonne, I met Yvonne a little while ago, Nick. She had some work done, and it didn't turn out exactly how it was, you know, how she wanted it to be. And she's such a lovely lady. But regardless of being a lovely lady and her husband, they're cracking people. And she's going to be doing that, Nick, but she's going to make some Caribbean food, and I'm going to be tasting it, going down and having a look and seeing what she needs doing. But Nick, you were talking about the consumer and what they should be doing to ensure that they choose the right. Let's just touch on that again, Nick, because there's new now.
So always do your research when you're looking for a garden designer, gardener, or landscaper. Ask to see references, ask to see their previous work, and always, as I say, basically research them.
Yeah. Jem says, honesty, integrity, reliability, hard working will keep clients asking for your services. You are only as good as your...
That's very true. Yeah. Very true, John.
Yeah, and that was Jem up there in Cheshire. Do you know, my old boss said the other week, he said... and I always remember, I was talking to an engineer, a chartered engineer that my old boss used to work with, and this chartered engineer said that my old boss, John Norman, always said, if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well, isn't it?
It is, it's worth doing well.
Are we as contractors, Nick, are we sometimes, how can I say, under pressure to get the job, think about the actual performance? Because as they say in the military, is that sort of slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
That's very true, John. Yeah, it's very true. When I was doing my landscape gardens, I never wanted to rush them through. I always wanted to speak to the customer and bring them along with me so that they were aware of everything.
Right. Okay. And right, that's a good idea. Nick, just say, Sarah Williams, good morning. She says, good morning, Paul. Just gardening, Banbury, Oxfordshire. She's down in Banbury. Sarah Williams there. She said, Oxfordshire, chilly out today in Warwickshire. Nick, can I ask you a question? And I'm going to put something to you. What you've got to remember about these live streams, Nick, it's probably fast and furious, but it's almost like, you know, when you invite your friends round and people are breaking bread and they're drinking wine and a beer and they're eating olives or whatever they're eating, right? a pizza, but there's lots of conversations going on. So I just want to sort of just put you in the picture what it's like for me to sort of, and I would never be rude to you, Nick, in any way, but I think that's the picture where what we've got here now this morning. You've got all sorts of people over the table asking it. Nick, look, we have these conversations, we talk about all sorts of things, but what would you like to talk about this morning? What if you wanted to get something off your chest? Or if you wanted to talk about something particularly that you wanted to sort of share with the consumer contractor, what would it be?
Well, as it's really cold, I'd like to speak about the birds, because bird feeders need to be filled up with feed and things like mealworms. But the birds are such an important part of our ecosystem and ecology and flora and fauna, and that would be the most important thing to talk about, I think, really, at the moment for gardeners.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, Jamie Way. Nick's just said something that was really important, and I knew by asking that question you would come out with something that is really profound and very important, Nick, is that we have to, don't we?
We do indeed, yeah. And it's not just the birds, it's things like squirrels, which are deemed as pests, pigeons, basically all God's creatures.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, look, again, we're on that table, so just put you in that picture. Got Jamie Way from Cardiff. You've got 35 live viewers, as I can see on here. Gareth in Manchester says, "Hi, John." And this is to you as well, my Nick. He says, "Hi, John. Do you think clients prefer a time and doesn't rush jobs, or do they want us in and out?" It's a good question, Nick. Good question. Do they want us in and out?
They want a landscaper that doesn't go in and out. They want somebody that's going to stay the course or not go on to do other jobs whilst they're doing their job.
Do you know, Nick, you've hit something really good there. Gareth says he's out there in Matlock building a dry stone wall. I can just see it now. Gareth, please send us a picture. He says, as I type, I have a little robin pinching my rich tea biscuits.
That's sweet.
Oh, Nick, I can just picture it. The other day, we were working in the garden, and Robin come along when I was eating, and but I don't think that he could have got the Cumberland sausage that fast, so I couldn't break it. Mario Ritchie says, I've put out loads of birds. Are we missing the birds now at the moment, Nick? Are we missing the birds? Are they there or no? Are they around?
Yeah, we've got them.
Yeah. Well, we're really lucky, Nick. You've seen the pictures the other day of the kingfishers outside my window.
You're very lucky to have kingfishers, John.
2.
You must be close to water.
Yeah, absolutely. We had 2, Nick, and they were absolutely stunning. It's amazing sometimes what actually comes into the garden where we are, being next to the river. It's unbelievable. Nick, what is the plans for the weekend? Are you just going to stay and stay warm, or are you going to try and get out? And it's a bit cold, isn't it?
It is a little bit cold, yeah. So I don't think I have a plan for the weekend, but one thing I would be looking at planting schemes for the spring next year.
Planting schemes. Oh, Nick, if you could share something. As I said to you, Nick, I know that you're a few miles away, but honest, my friend, if you said to me at any point, John, come down and do a video, I'd love to do a video with you and in your garden and back up to the allotment sometimes and just have a look and see what it's doing now. It'd be nice to spend the day with you and do a bit of filming, though it would be cold. But I think that the thing is, Nick, I don't think people realise what a gem you are.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah, I'd be delighted to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, listen, I'm not going to cut you off now, but there are lots of other things that these people want to talk about, and I don't want to keep you any longer. I think you need to watch the live stream a little bit if you can now, and think about what the positivity that you've put into this stream this morning, Nick. It's absolutely excellent. I'm really over the moon and chuffed that I've got such a valid friend like you, who I haven't spoke to for a while, but you're always prepared to come on and help and talk to a community of consumers and landscapers and contractors up and down the country, and offer your knowledge, your plethora of experience and knowledge and the science behind, Nick, what you deliver sometimes is, I couldn't do that myself. So thank you, Nick.
That's all right. That's a pleasure.
All right. Well, I'll speak to you later. You have a good day there.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you are. It's Nick McCartney there this morning. We're at 35 minutes. Welcome to Saturday Morning Live. It's absolutely brilliant having Nicholas McCartney on here, and it's great having you guys on here as well. We try and run this for an hour. We normally get to an hour, and this morning the title was about the freeze-thaw effect. The freeze-thaw effect. I know John Ward is still with us. Is it worth the risk? That's what we're saying. Is it worth the risk when you're working with concrete and mortar? Is it worth taking a risk of actually laying a couple of slabs? It's probably not. Somebody said this morning, what do the Russians do and the Canadians do? Well, they do all sorts of things. You can quarantine the area in some way, and people say, how do you do that? When you look at roofers, sometimes when they're building houses, they'll put, it's about risk and reward. If they think it's going to rain, they'll put a big sheet over the top with the scaffolding, and there's a lot of cost in that, and they'll sheet everything off, but the things still freeze on the inside. Just going to read some of the questions or comments that we've got coming through this morning. Gareth says, what a great customer I've worked for since 7:30. I'm on the 4th cuppa. Much appreciated. Gareth, please send me a picture from where you are this morning, mate. And Gareth, I really appreciate you being on here. I really do. Don't chance it. Wait for good weather, says Mario. John Ward says, Robins are a visit from loved knees Skyhay. Say, I thought I was not loved and all. Absolutely. Steve says, Robins turn up as soon as you start digging with no fear. So nice to see. They're very territorial, I believe, that the robins are. If anybody actually got any advice about birds in general, but I've heard robins can be very, very ferocious with other robins that come into their area. Very territorial. I don't know how true that is or not. Ian Goodgin says, especially please, John, remind people to break the ice on the bird baths. Birds need to drink. Yeah, absolutely. That's a massive point, actually. You don't think about it where we are because we live by the river, but brilliant. Alison says, Hulk and friends, I think clients definitely want quality, and we will never compromise the quality of the work for speed. If it goes wrong, they will be quick to come back to you and complain. Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you. With mortar 4 degrees and rising, I've always taken it as. Well, you'll see on here, Dave, this morning, there are lots of difference of opinions about mortars. And certainly, I think Jem said that it was like 2 and rising. Got to be careful what you're doing. That's what we're going to do. Di, good morning, Di. How's it going? Good to see you, brother. Glad you're on here this morning. We're keeping good. I hope you're keeping well and safe over there in Cwmbran. Welcome to Saturday Morning Live with Johnny Boy. We're talking about the freeze-thaw effect of mortars. As you always know, is that I've always used, I've tended to use screed mixers over the years. I've had periods where I've used wet mixers, but I certainly wouldn't use a wet mix at the moment because certainly it's the wet mixes that actually freeze. And that I'll tell you now, make no bones about it. I was going to get to this. I'll take my glass off so I don't need them on at the moment. There will be copious amounts of people across the country at the moment laying patios in this weather. Just before this freeze effect started happening, I actually was laying paving, okay, and I reduced the actual moisture content, but it wasn't freezing at that point. But what we don't realise is that when we leave the job, we didn't realise that you do get freeze. It goes drops below the freeze point during the night, okay? Not when you're there, during the night. I was actually cutting the porcelain, okay? Cutting porcelain because I didn't want to lay it. I ain't going to risk it because all you're going to do is just going to go back. And you have to be strong enough to say to your customer, I can't do it, okay? I cannot do it. I was asked the other day to actually, well, I wasn't asked, we talked about doing a decking system, and the wood was absolutely frozen, and there's no way that I would actually fix it and screw it down, because the wood isn't in want it to be in when you fit it correctly, because it's going to be full of water, it's going to be full of ice. The crystallization is just not good at all. Di, you will know, of all things, you worked on site for many years, and it's never always a good thing to actually lay concrete in the frost. It's not good at all. Let me have a little look what people are actually saying there. Just going to go back there and have a read there. Gareth says, I agree, Alison, but I have lost jobs in the past due to clients wanting a quicker job from bigger companies. Yeah, but what I would do, Gav, because you're good at what you do, okay, and I think that sometimes if you actually not necessarily stand up, but you actually say what you believe in, okay, and you're firm with your customers and you tell them, I think sometimes they will come back. Never have that fear of being able to do that and worrying about whether you lose a job because of that situation. It's a tough thing to do, especially in the economic climate that we're in at the moment. It's not a good thing, is it, to sort of like be firm with your customer, because they ain't going to like it. But what they will do, as long as you say it respectfully, okay, they will appreciate it. Don't be a yes man. You can say no. That's for all of us. Saturday Morning Live, we've got 35 live viewers, but only 22 likes. We're staying with this at the moment. One thing I want you to start doing this weekend, if you can, if you've got the time, and it'd be important to actually do it, is actually look at, or on Google, some of the effects of the freeze thaw effect, because it's not just then over the night when you think it's okay, it's when it goes on for days. You'll find a contractor will lay an area or put some concrete down, whatever they're doing, whether they're using mortars or mixers for concrete in post, for building things, whatever they're doing, is that they go back the next day and now look, and it isn't a full inspection, and they think it's okay. But what happens if that? It's almost like rot. That's what we got to do. That's what we got to see it. It's almost like decay. Once it gets in, right, that's it. It's a done deal. It's almost like rust in reinforcing. Once the rust sets in, it is like a cancer. It's not good at all. So what will happen is, if your concrete or your mortar, whatever you've done, is affected and you haven't noticed it, right? It's a thaw effect, okay, and the ground can freeze a couple of inches down, all right, we know that. And then what happens, and it doesn't have to freeze all the way down, it's only when it's freezing on the top, and certainly with sandstone that has a high porosity, it's the voids that have been created anyway, because the sandstone has a porosity value, but it's when the freeze gets into it and it gets down into the mortar, it starts working further and further, and it starts decaying, starts eating away, almost like rot and almost like rust. And it's that cancer that just absolutely ruins it. You'll always have contractors that will go back and they'll say that they say, well, no problem with my job, the customer never phoned me up and complained about nothing, because they're not looking for it, okay? They're not looking for it, okay? They rely on you as a contractor that have due diligence and integrity, that is going to make sure that their job is absolutely fine. So what I would to do everything in your power to ensure that anything you've done, even now, okay, even if you've laid a patio before the frost period, you should be protecting your patio now by covering it up. Even I should be, I got to think about that. Okay, we've got to try and keep the frost off the top, because it's going to start working down. The beauty of working with porcelain, it has no porosity as such, probably 0.002% porosity value, so it's not going to get down. But we got to think about how the moisture gets in from the sides and the underside. That's why you got to work with everything clean. I said the other day about, and I've seen this before. I mean, when I actually look back, and I just take it for granted that people are actually thinking of doing it, of putting hot water on top of type 1, but it's going to freeze again. That's the thing about it, okay? And why would you put water into a product that you need to keep dry? you need to keep it dry. You really do. The actual engineering and the structure of all that material actually changes when it starts freezing. Okay, when you start looking the in depth of it and the bigger picture and what's involved with that freeze thaw effect, it's just not good at all. I will say to I use juicers a lot. I don't get paid to say this, but I use juicers a lot, and if I have bags on a pallet before they deliver it to get all the water out of it, I want to know what water I'm actually putting into my products. If I'm making concrete, I want to know the moisture content. There's nothing worse when you get somebody that chucks a bucket of water in the mixer, then starts adding that wet sand. It's just not good at all. Ask your suppliers to place your bags upon a pallet prior to delivery to get the water out. If in doubt, lane out. I've been looking for something like that for ages, Gareth. Thanks very much. I love it. Absolutely brilliant. If in doubt, lane out. And like that. If it's okay with you, Gareth, I'm going to do that in a post later on. If in doubt, lane out. But the trouble is, it's when you need to recognise, Gareth, guys across the country, when you've got to start realising when you know that you're going to have potential problems. Okay, that's what creating those voids through the hydrations naturally. Anyway, it's those voids that allow the freeze thaw effect, the crystallization, start breaking down. If anybody got any questions this morning, you need to say now. 29 live viewers. It's gone up and down this morning, and we're going to stay with this for an hour. We've only got like 9 minutes to go, so just stay with me. Just going to read back some of the comments, what people say. Jamie Way, my mate there in Cardiff, Jamie says, I laid a border yesterday on a 4-1 screed mix, went back this morning to chat to the customer, and after check it's solid, but you have got to make a decision whether you want to risk it. Do you know, Jay, I actually value what you've actually said there, and I hope you are still with it, because you put that on a little while ago. Yeah, absolutely. Just want to read what Jamie says there. Oh, it's what Steve says as well. Wet in the summer, dry in the winter for me. There we are. Wet in the summer, dry in the winter for Steve. Jamie Way says, I laid a border yesterday on a 4-1 screed mix. Went back this morning to chat to the customer to have a check. There we are. Brilliant. He went back. It is solid. You've got to make a decision whether you want to take a risk. I think, Jay, I'll be honest, and I'll say this now. I let see what they were like, 2 slabs, okay? And that's up to me. I decided that I did it on that basis to see what it done with a screed mix. Okay, I covered it up, okay? And we didn't lay anything else, just 2 slabs. I didn't lay past, I think it was our past. If I have had any problems with, just lost you there for a minute. 35 live viewers. We're going to stay with this just for a moment. Make sure. I don't know what's happened to the internet this morning. I think it may be the frost that's having an effect on us this morning. Mark Needham's joined us. Mark, good morning, mate. Sorry about the signal this morning. I know you suggested that if you can delay until conditions are right, but would you recommend a frost proofer in your mix? Or I'll get onto that in a minute. I've had plenty of bags of sand that are like jelly at the bottom, says Jem. Not good. No, it's not good at all. Yeah, like jelly, it's not good. I do both, says Steve. Bad signal. I have to go, John. Chat soon, mate. Yeah, no problem at all. Just to go back what Mark says there about additives. Do you know, Mark, we got to be really careful about additives. And I know that they're out there, but I'm never sure. I'm never what they're set to do, really. I don't think that sometimes they've actually worked. I don't know. It's a bit of a funny one. Just going to read about frost proofers and that. I don't know, mate. I think what it does, it speeds up the curing process, and I think that you don't want that because it's not natural. Well, if you really decided that you wanted to take a risk in a situation, what I would say is I would get a sheet up over the top so the sheet takes the frost. It changes the ambient temperature of where you're working. And I've done it before where I made sure that we had heat in an area. It changed the atmospheric conditions. It dried everything out, okay? The slabs were dried. In this one situation, we used slate paving. And I'm going to say now, I decided to take a risk and it turned out fine. but I'm not advocating that you should do it. So I've got to remind you about it. But I've been asked that question, and I did take a chance. Okay, I did take a chance, but I changed the conditions. I had a sheet up, we had a fire going, and everything was dried out. The sand wasn't dry, wasn't frozen in any way, shape, or form, and the paving wasn't. And we were using slate, and slate has a very dense, it has a dense property, so no water ingression going in. They were all dried out. They were not warm, but they were dry. They weren't even cold. Okay, the paving wasn't even cold, and I done it. I took a risk, and it worked. But I would suggest to everybody, don't take a risk. Just don't do it. If you can do something else, don't lay any paving whatsoever. It's not good at all, or at any point. Don't forget, it's just about the air temperatures. Your products can freeze to certain degrees. These effectively have to thaw. Also consider your ground temperature. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what Alison's talked about. That's what I've talked about this morning. The crust that's formed on the top, it's a difficult one. Can you dig out a job in the cold? It's going to be difficult, but you could actually dig it out, and there's things that you can get on with, else. I would suggest that. And this is the big question. And this is the thing that people are talking about. Is it worth the risk? Well, probably, unless you're going to change it and you're prepared to take a risk, okay? But you've got to remember, if it is compromised, you need to do something about it. 30 live viewers, 23 likes. Come on, let's get the likes up to 30. Welcome to Saturday Morning Live. We had a guest this morning, Nicholas McCartney, was talking about plants as well, and the grounds and the things that we can do in the ground at this time of the year, or with plants. But one thing that Nick actually mentioned was about feeding the birds, and that's what we're going to do today. Alison and I, we're going to make sure whatever we do, but we're going to be doing it. Just to let you know, we are out today. We've got to go and see a customer today. It's on a Saturday, and the both of us are going. We've got to go and measure up. Lovely people. We're going to go and see them. Key masonry, building, landscaping in the mix. Antifreeze. Yeah, well, that's what they do in places. It's whether you use it or not. I don't know. Jamie Way says, sorry, John, got a bad signal. Off the Christmas shopping now. I think on that note, I said because we have definitely got a signal problem this morning, and I've never done this before. We've got 30 live viewers who are going to stay with it this morning. If you've just joined, we've been talking about the freeze thaw effect. If you've got any questions about it, what I want you to do and what you want you to think about is go online and have a look and start having a read about all the things that has been mentioned. Even you type in something about antifreeze. Is antifreeze good? Are additives good for using in mortars? I think I was always taught that the less additives that you put in any mortars or concrete, the better it is, okay? But I know that they do use antifreeze for products, but I believe it does compromise the product itself long-term in some way. Is it worth the risk again? Okay, because that's what it's about. But for me, I've taken a risk quite a few times, and it's always been fine. And the times when it hasn't worked, I've always made sure I've lifted things back up or down for a fence line. It's not good at all. So if you can avoid taking the risk, just don't do it. Jamie, see you after, son. Hope you're okay. Come and have a coffee sometime. Gareth says, I think that the chap that check is paving this morning was probably frozen rather than set. I totally agree with you. Take it easy, everyone. Enjoy your weekend. Don't forget mine. If you got my number is 07795 595 994. 07795 595 994. I can't share it with you this morning because we've lost internet connection. But please send me a picture from where you are or where you're working. I want to see it. It's amazing the people that actually join these live streams and where they join from America, from Australia, from Switzerland. It's absolutely incredible. See, you're having some stuff coming through now. No sooner than I say you respond. You are very, very accommodating this morning. Send me a picture from what you're doing. I want to see where you are, what you're doing. Tell me a little bit about it. Maybe the first time that you've done it, but send me a picture. My number is 07795 595 994. Also, I forgot to say this morning, okay, you may feel that I go at this 100%, but I do because I'm reading everybody's questions and answers as I'm reading to you now and speaking. I'm reading what people are saying, and I want to try and get that out to you. What was I going to say? I was going to say something there. Just have a look at the weekend and the things I want you to sort of check out. If you've got 2 minutes, get on Google. Look at the voids that are actually think we're going to have to let this go soon because we are losing our signal, which is such a shame. 29 live viewers. Signal bad. Pizzeria, mate. Great, Gareth. Be good to see him. Hairlip is on air. I had a fright this morning. My patio rug made it look like my slabs lifted, covered in a light of dust and with it. But they use it. Yeah, they do, bud. And, you know, and look, listen, I'm not condemning too many times now. That's it. Thanks for joining. I'm going to finish this on a high. 30 live viewers. Thanks for joining. We're going to be back next week. If you've got anything to share, drop me an email, info@greentoplandscapes.co.uk, or you can just send me a message on WhatsApp, 07795595994. Been an absolutely fantastic live stream this morning. Ian, take care. Gareth, take care. And Nuttall Landscaping, no problem at all. You, if anybody wants to call, no problem. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye. It's been a good one.